then, I got it.
Okay.
The reason I'm counting, just part of the reason Ms. Murdy set this up for me and for you guys was the county commissioners have heard that you, of the complaints, not just Mason Lake, but all the water in general about the voting ordinance. So September 3rd, I'm having a meeting with commissioners representative, and we're going to sit down and actually look at rewriting the Mason County voting ordinance. We're going to try to update, make things fall more in line with state law, and maybe change a few things to make it better for everybody. Okay? So if I could, by counting everybody and saying, hey, I had a meeting with 48 citizens from Mason Lake that weren't happy about voting safety, maybe we can get a little farther along. But you guys know, to change an ordinance in the county, it's more than just rewriting it and getting it rubber stamped. So I'm going to help. We're going to try to get it rewrote, some of it, and we'll try to get it pushed through. But, however, whatever you want to, quotation marks, you all are going to have to help. All right? I mean, they're not going to listen to just me. Yeah, I can sit down and do the technical and the stuff, and then I can get the attorney for the county to review it and make sure it's all legal, but that's not going to have the commissioners sign it or pass it or make it go into effect. The citizens are the ones that are going to have to make the commissioners agree and toe the line, or again, however you want to describe the issue. Okay? So, that's why. The original idea behind this was a lot of the biggest complaints, show of hands, wake boats. They're specifically designed to create a wake for surfing and or water skiing, whatever. So right now, ordinance says 150 feet. 150 feet with a wake boat is probably too close. It's probably damaging your docks. It's eroding your shoreline, right?
Right.
So what would you guys like to? I know, perfect world would be no wake boat. Ain't happening. Okay, just no. That one will never. Trust me, that would never go away. There's just too much to try to define for a wake boat. Because even just some of the regular ski boats create a pretty good wake. Yes, sir.
Well, what's the science behind wakes? I mean, how many feet away from the shore, for those of you who get shoreline erosion, does anyone know a boat could be and not erode your shore? If we pick an arbitrary value, it may not really be that which solves the problem.
How about no wake zone? Can I ask just for clarification? The 150 is the place where you can put your 12-inch.
Oh, 6 miles an hour.
Okay, so it's a no wake zone, no ski zone,
Yes.
essentially. Okay, so if you try and define a wake boat zone, aren't we going to have additional markers somewhere out there to define that? That's the difficult part.
To enforce it.
Where
But
would
how
they-
far out? That's my question.
Where does the measurement come from? The end of dock?
Shoreline. Shoreline, the beach,
I'll get on that.
right at the water.
Is it at the water, at high water
Well,
mark?
high
or
water.
at-
High water mark.
High water.
I would entertain the idea of everybody checking the buoys that they have out right now and seeing if it meets the current laws, because I think a lot of them do and a lot of them don't also.
That's correct.
All is to come out and to ensure that the buoys are at the correct distance and or what we're going to do with it.
What about the size of the boat? Could that be limited?
No.
What about the size of the wave?
How about the IQ of the
The size of the boat would be really, really hard to, I mean, as the gentleman say, where are you gonna cut it off? Where's the cut off?
However, other counties address this issue.
That's what I was gonna ask.
They've either made no wake zones during certain hours, or they've limited the number of boats. I mean, they've shut the lakes pretty much down. But they're, Mason Lake, that's why we have so many out-of-county people. It's a really big lake in comparison to other lakes on this side of the mountains. Yes?
Is there any way that you could eliminate the bladders being filled? No.
No, because even without the bladders, the hull designs are made to still make a wake, just not as big.
Well, it's the big weight that causes the problem. If you
Right.
could keep it,
But to define, I already talked to the attorneys, to try to define wake boat is, I know what it pretty much is, but to define it in a legal way is just, it's gonna be a nightmare for enforcement.
What is the definition of a no wake?
A no wake zone?
I know that there's a speed, but you can go very slow and the boat can be producing a large wake.
Right, normally the way they look at it is 6 miles an hour or a no wake being generated by your boat.
And the no wake is defined in size of the wake.
Roughly,
I mean, wakes are measured from crest to crest and height.
right. So you can't have anything more than 6 inches high.
So could you just create a no wake zone around the lake at, say, 250 feet?
There's one in the canal and it's not. being
No, there's not.
enforced. I
No,
know
there is
there's
not.
a no wake zone when you come into the canal.
No, no,
No, there isn't.
no.
You can go 50 miles an hour in this channel here.
This channel is wide open. It does not have any restrictions on it. Now, why anybody would want to go down that channel at any speed behind it on a ski when it's only 3 feet deep?
Well, that race boat came out at about 100 miles an hour the other night before it hit the pontoon boat.
So,
He lives down here.
yeah. Yes.
Way back when I was a youngster, we had a understanding, at least I thought the rule was, that we had 6 miles an hour and no wake within 200 feet of shore. That's how I grew up. If you were driving a boat, you were responsible for not putting a wake on the shore. So you had to go slow enough to do that, and you had to be within 6 miles per hour within 200 feet of shore. That's how I grew up. Later, that rule was changed to 150 feet. And it was my understanding it was 150 feet from obstacles. So if there was a dock that was 150, or a dock that was 100 feet long, you had to be 250 feet
No.
from the shore. That was how I understood the old rules. So I guess
The
if we-
current ordinance that we have to live with is 150 feet from the high water mark.
Yes. What I would propose is a 300-foot, no-wake, 6-mile-an-hour zone.
That's what it is on saltwater.
Is that what it is in saltwater?
The rules are hard to find. I've been digging into them, because I've broken a few of them, and somebody alerted me to that, and I went, let me find out what they are. It took me forever to scrounge them out of the internet.
I spent some time this morning on the internet and failed to find it.
But there are saltwater rules and freshwater rules.
Well, we've been up here for 60 years, and we used to have a little dock out when you entered the channel, and there was a sign on it. And it said 6 miles an hour, and it was there for a number of years. And I don't remember exactly when that was taken. But everybody pretty well, of course, there wasn't the traffic that there is today either on the lake, you know. But everybody pretty well obeyed that law.
Looking at the canal itself, in my best estimation, the distance and the shortest distance across that canal is somewhere between 260 feet and 340 feet. Somewhere in there is the near, I haven't measured it, I don't have a link.
Last time I measured it, if you go straight down the channel, straight down the channel, you're right at 150.
Right, so somebody, so what I'm saying is if your speed limit is 6 miles an hour within 50 feet, if two boats are passing straight on, I don't see how you can, transit that canal 50 miles an hour safely, there we get into negligence, with all those things. So it doesn't make sense that you can travel in that rate of speed up and down that
You
canal.
can.
Now, the other thing
Within
is-
100 feet of another boat with a motor,
They do
Right.
that.
you've got to be 6 miles an hour.
So here's the other
Or
thing.
without a motor, 6 miles an hour.
So also the skiers up and down there, I don't see how you could possibly operate safely 2 skiers up and down that canal with that separation safely. And that 150 feet is for the skiers too. So they have to be right behind that boat. They can't do what they're doing, where they're using the the floats as slalom floats, So how do we enforce that? How do we make that happen? Other than make that a 6 mile an hour, just as a community say the canal 6 miles an hour.
Well, you can't as a community.
They do it in Lake Washington, why can't we do it here?
As a community, you cannot set the speeds or the distances on the lake.
What I'm saying is, I'm proposing is if you can rewrite the ordinance, why can't we?
Well, we can if we rewrite the ordinance,
That's what I'd like to, that's what I'd like to.
What can you do, and what would you suggest? You know the problem.
Yeah,
What would you suggest? Because we've got a problem.
well, again, perfect world, I'd like to bounce the 6 mile an hour no wake zone all the way out to 300 feet. In a perfect situation. 300 feet in the main portion of the lake, there's still a lot of lake out there for those who want to jet ski and water ski and tube and.
Isn't there a part in the ordinance that states that speed can be in access if you pull in a skier to and from the dock?
Straight.
You can exceed that
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
The
can go
boat
straight
cannot
out.
leave the shore within 150 feet with a
You can't
skier.
do that in that.
You can drop a skier off, you cannot take off from the shoreline with a skier. I've dug into the rules, and it'll just make you marvel at some of them. No, you can't. You can deliver a skier back to the shore, but that boat can't come within 150 feet in excess of 6 miles per hour. But the skier can come as long as the shoreline is on his right, because he's traveling counterclockwise around the lake. The skier can let go out at 150 feet and zip as far as he can inland.
Sure.
That's it.
So I think doesn't the Mason County voting handbook that was printed years ago said you could take it straight off from your
Yep.
dock?
Yeah.
Straight off.
Mason County ordinance says that it's permissible.
Yes.
You don't have 100
I'm gonna
feet.
Who wrote those rules?
You don't have it.
County commissioners.
I've read them all. I've read them all. Can't find that. So either they've been kind of taken away over the years and you're not refreshed on the rules, because you could be living with some old rules. I dug them all out.
That's what my meeting for starting on the 3rd is because that book is extremely old. It has not been.
But my take is it's like the channel. There's days it's wide open. There's nobody on the lake but me. I would just soon go from the boat launch to the main body of the lake on my personal watercraft at 30 miles an hour. I really just would like to zip down the center. Nobody's out, nothing. And I can do that safely. And I can do it safely with the rules that are currently in effect.
Except
It's
for
just
your
that
wife.
I meet somebody else coming down the channel now. I gotta give them some distance. Now I'm not within 100, you know what I mean? Now I gotta get down to 6. If people knew the rules, I think more would follow them, and we would have less issue. But knowledge of the rules is probably not existent for the most of us.
Unfortunately. I mean, you can make all the rules in the world, and, everybody understands how busy law enforcement is, and those rules are unenforceable, other than the people that are probably in this room.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing with the accident. Would it have happened had the
Yes.
go-fast boater abided by the law?
Well, either
Probably
way,
not.
I mean, running at night without light at 50
Well,
miles an hour.
without lights had nothing to do with that. Okay? It wouldn't have changed
No, you would have still hit them.
it wouldn't have changed at all whether he had lights on that boat or not, okay? Without the lights, it wouldn't have changed what happened, with or without, okay? Following the rules, yeah, that would have helped.
So we just have a lawbreaker.
Yep.
Now we're sitting here gonna add more rules
Well,
for somebody that's not gonna follow them anyway. But it's gonna impinge us, because it impinges
but
our
you're not
coming
the
and
only
going.
lake that has had this exact same complaint, okay? Other lakes have said the same thing, and the basic consensus in the county that those lakes that brought this up is they want to move the boats farther away from the shorelines. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yep.
So, 300 feet, if you watch most of the wakes, and I've watched a lot, they're about 300 feet by the time it gets to most of the docks and the shores. It's pretty slow. I mean, it's dissipated quite a bit at 300 feet for the average boat. Yeah, there's always exceptions.
So that would make the channel a no-wake zone.
That would make that channel a no-wake zone, a 6 mile an hour no-wake zone.
Did we have that before? It was posted down there at one time.
Yes.
Years
It was posted.
ago.
Okay.
But it,
You know,
part of it
ultimately,
was like another place we have that we put in no-wake buoy. Some citizens didn't like it, so they came in and took the buoy. We put a new buoy in, they took that buoy, and after a couple $1,000s of our money, i.e. your money, being spent on buoys, it was like, okay, fine, we're not putting them in anymore. We can't afford it.
Is there any way, if we do that, that we could also propose that we can leave from the dock with skiers and return them? And the reason for that is, if now we're making the area even tighter, I shouldn't say even tighter, but tighter, which is fine. Now you're forcing to put families, parking them in the middle of the freeway, into the water to take off. It's like, you know, that's the whole reason you have on-ramps and off-ramps, so you can merge it with the traffic. It would be nice to be able to.
Okay, so leave the dock, return to the dock, as long as it's,
That's what I would recommend.
as long as it's straight out, straight in.
That's all right, yeah, right.
That's what the boating ordinance says.
Which would work in the
Yeah.
main part of the lake.
Because you can't have it, you can't have it paralleling. I'm gonna come into my dock, and you start half a mile down
Sure, I
coming
mean,
into
it's
your dock.
subjective.
Okay, that wouldn't work well.
As straight as possible.
I
it's
could
gonna
just
allow
see
boat
now you
rate
have
within
all
300
this
feet of
traffic
shore.
moving,
Yeah.
and now I have to go out, stop in the middle of it,
No, you don't.
drop my kids, and then take off.
On the ordinance here, you can take
Right,
off.
but we're talking about what we're gonna write.
Okay, you can take off from the shore, you have to return at 45 degrees on the written ordinance.
We're talking about rewriting that.
As it is now.
Right,
Sounds like there's some confusion on what's that.
so,
You know, ultimately, the boater, the owner or driver of the boat's responsible for the wake. That's in the law. If your shoreline, your dock, or something gets slapped around by that boat with that boating number on it, and you wrote that down and called it in or did something, right? And said, this guy just destroyed some of my property. I think a lot of this would end, because I'm against making a cruise boat that goes out, sit out there 300 feet now. I think there's an enjoyability about coming into 150 feet or close, and looking at homes as you go out in the evening with your cocktail. I think that's wonderful.
Well, I think he's talking about the lake.
But what those boats don't go by 6 miles an hour. They'll go by at 10 or 15 or whatever they're doing. Why make them all do 6? That's hurting us as a whole for those wakeboard boats that we could penalize by getting that boat number and calling it in. Put a stop to them that way. Or put a big sign up, boaters, caution, wakes. These homeowners aren't gonna put up with this. Put that down there at the county park. 300 feet,
It goes back to enforcement. Man hours and that, you can't enforce something like that. There's not enough people to enforce it.
So what do you do about a call that comes in and says, that darn boater just went by and ripped out my dock? Now, it doesn't hurt my property. I love those waves. They hit a shoreline and the rocks just tumble and tumble. There's no erosion on mine. I could care less about a boatway, really, I mean, no damage. But for those of you that have a damage, what if they call that into you and say, hey, I'm tired of this guy, and here's his number? What happens?
Nothing.
Well, that's kind of sad.
That's very true. Nothing.
We should have waiting for an answer on this.
No, because we called many times.
Based on the regulations, he's following the rules. He's 150 feet out.
You commented that the county attorney was saying no to any kind of regulations on those wake boats.
Well, he didn't say
On the
no
boat
to the
itself, on the
regulation.
boat
But what
itself.
about my property? Where's my comeback on that? He's not protecting my property, he's protecting the guy, the owner that owns the boat. I have a piece of property that's being eroded by those boats, and my dock that gets beat up every year. But that's all gradually happening. I can't go and call and say, hey, this guy's boat came by and beat up my shore. They'll hang up on you laughing. So, I mean, they need to take into account that we as property owners and property taxpayers need to have some rights along with this too. And that is where the idea of pushing the boats out, away from the shore, comes into play. Because as you said, if you call and say their wake's pounding my dock to death, well, they're out 150 feet. Then they're not violating anything, and it's a civil matter. If you want to take them to small claims court for the damage their wake did.
Then it becomes a he said, she said.
Yeah. Right. It's over a period
And there are
of time.
certain areas of the lake that get more boat traffic. We live on Little Hoquiam. We get them circling our cove all day long.
They're doing it at night.
They do it after dark. Our dock, our shore gets pounded, whereas somebody that is in a different section of the lake doesn't get it quite
May
so
not
much.
see it at all.
So
The south end of
it's
the lake
harder
is
for
like-
some people.
It's narrower.
Oh, I know.
So, but that's back to the 300. We all do like to cruise at more than 6 miles an hour around the lake. I don't always have 3 hours to go around the lake. And if we're at 6 miles, that's what we're saying we have to do. So is it possible, the 6 mile no wake, is it possible to stagger it? At 150, it's 6 mile no wake. From 150 to 300, it's, I don't know what number, but something that's reasonable for how we use the lake. We use it at more than 6 miles an hour close to shore because 6 miles an hour is slow to go around this lake.
Well, you've got to go out already.
Well, how about?
Well, but then you're not doing the nice, what, a 15 mile an hour cruise around the lake in a regular boat when you're going for a cruise and just to go around and enjoy and look at the houses like you said, is not unreasonable, or is it causing damage to the shoreline?
How about no wakeboarding within 300 feet?
Yeah.
Well, then I'd have to say no skiing.
How do you define wakeboarder and a skier?
No towed inner tubes within 300 feet.
Why is that?
Because most of those laws are written that if a towed, anybody being towed.
Well, let's not write it that way.
It's hard to define because you've got older ski boats that were designed not to put up any wake, whereas the new boats are designed to put up wake.
Well, if you're pulling a wakeboarder, you want a wake. So if we made it no wakeboarding, it'd be highly defined.
No wake surfer. What about surfers? They don't even hang on to a rope.
Right.
They're not
What do you
being
do with the
towed.
surfers?
So they maybe change the word wakeboard to what?
Well, they're designing new boats that are gonna make even bigger ones. Yep.
Well, and is there a way to do that? I mean, that's the question for the lawyers then, is there a way to define that kind of recreational activity as opposed to, but then again, they pull inner tubes, so you can't take away, those boats pull inner tubes. So they could take a skier.
What about jet skis that take scooters?
How is this all going to be enforced? Even if there was